Hi, my name is Brett Banfe, and this is another episode of Bitcoin Builders. Today, we have a very special guest, Chief Technology Officer of SmartLedger Solutions, Greg Ward. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, Brett? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Before we jump into action here, I want to just start things off and say recently this week, I had the initial introduction that I had to you and to your ideas resurface for me, which was a 3.5-year-old conversation that you had with Dr. Clemens Lay on the power of Bitcoin script and the ability to iterate and Turing completeness and the ability to loop functions by using inputs or outputs as inputs. So I want to maybe walk back to that time period in your life. Did you know about Bitcoin at that time? Was that one of the first instances where you actually learned about this tool? Can you talk us through that?
Sure. No, it wasn't the first time I had heard about Bitcoin, although I definitely heard about Bitcoin, or at least got involved with Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies, so to speak, that were around at that time. I didn't really get onto that stuff until about 2017 or 18. When I discovered cryptocurrencies, again, if you will, it was through another cryptocurrency that had come out of London. It was initially going to solve the micropayments within banking, within gambling. And they quickly had made a turn to start to discuss enabling financial inclusion for unbanked countries of the world, developing nations. That was about the time that I had heard about them. So I'd gotten involved with this cryptocurrency, and I got really highly involved, where I became kind of an influencer and was speaking to people about what micropayments could do. And I had created an e-commerce store. At that time, I was looking into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the different things that were coming out. I had a good friend of mine who was advising me, hey, Greg, stack some sats, right? Get some Bitcoin as an investment vehicle. That's what he was really speaking about it from. Around that time, right pre-COVID, myself and my lady Shannon, we both decided to take a cybersecurity certification course and a web and app development certification. And when we did that, we really went just full force into it. I mean, the moment that we got certified, we didn't look back. Within weeks, I had discovered Clemens. How that happened was, I had quickly wanted to employ some of my newly found skills to blockchain development, smart contracts. And so I started looking up JavaScript, smart contracts, and the first thing that came up was Clemens. What was exciting, interesting, confusing to me was that his title of his YouTube was Smart Contracts on Bitcoin. And I knew enough at that time already that, well, let me rephrase that. I thought I knew enough, right, that Ethereum was created to solve the inability for Bitcoin to have smart contracts. Being someone who was already kind of in the influential space, I reached out to him out of curiosity and also to interview him. And so I reached out and interviewed him, learned more about Bitcoin Computer, which was his project. And that's how I discovered Clemens. And we can get into some more of, what I found through, the introduction and kind of diving into it a little bit.
Sure. And, just from having known you, and we've had the pleasure of meeting multiple times out in Dubai, Miami, all over the world. But, you're someone who's very purpose driven. You're not into this just because it's the latest trend or the latest fad. And I also love, from what I'm hearing from the story that you just described, that it's not just you're purpose driven, but you're motivated by your own curiosity. So maybe where you had thought that you had an answer and a solution, but you're now encountering some evidence that's showing that maybe that solution wasn't 100% watertight, but you're willing to do the work to actually go in there and investigate that. You also mentioned something else that's quite important that I want to touch on, which is cybersecurity. So what are the kind of benchmarks and the guide rails for cybersecurity, and how does the blockchain and its ability to authenticate and to have an auditable ledger, how does that impact something a secure or an industry that is so old like cybersecurity?
Sure. Great questions. So within the world of cybersecurity, you have frameworks that different organizations have come out with to help guide governments, individuals, and organizations with providing for themselves a more secure profile, if you will. The NIST cybersecurity framework, the National Institute of Science and Technology, they came out with the NIST cybersecurity framework, which guides organizations to look at everything from identification of assets and resources within their organization, from machines to actually individuals, human resources, to detection of a potential breach, to response to that potential breach, all the way to recovery of what would happen if there was a breach and remediation of whatever damages that might have occurred. When I first, got into the BSV ecosystem and quickly started meeting people and got introduced to Brian Doherty, one of the first things that we had discussed was starting Certihash, which was our way of approaching cybersecurity and then NIST cybersecurity framework, meeting up with blockchain technology. And we were able to see right off the bat that each of the phases of cybersecurity could be addressed with blockchain, and particularly scalable BSV blockchain. And that's everything from identification, utilizing private public key pairs assigned to devices as well as human resources, human personnel, to the abilities to authenticate people as well as authenticate devices, to the abilities to keep a record, an auditable trail of activities. So as you'll see, we'll discuss in a little bit, Certihash, we're able to keep a high resolution of, let's say, log files in the state of a network throughout the life cycle of an organization's, their daily activities. And so you're able to utilize this immutable blockchain, and because it's so cheap and because you're able to have these micropayments, we're able to now utilize it for all sorts of different activities and things within cybersecurity, as well as recovery. So if somebody wanted to put an entire operating system onto the blockchain, then they could do that encrypted and be able to pull it back again to recover data if they wanted to. So yeah, you really nailed it. Blockchain does cover, and enhance all aspects of cybersecurity.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've heard mentioned through lectures from Dr. Wright, etc., the first thing that a hacker will do will be to erase the logs that they've penetrated the system. What types of I have a two-part question. One part is, how does Certihash mitigate the ability for someone who has penetrated the system to erase and cover up their tracks that they've actually infiltrated the system? And second part of that is, how important is it that the blockchain itself is a public ledger? Because some people would have a concern about that and say, well, this is my private data that I'm looking to secure, and I would prefer to have a private solution. But what are some of the problems that arise when you're using a private solution, maybe tied into that question about someone being able to cover up their tracks? And how does using a public ledger actually mitigate, especially a low fee public ledger like BSV blockchain?
Great question, Brett. Well, it's our opinion that there really is not a true private blockchain per se. The reason being is that the privacy in and of itself gives rise to a single point of failure, and that single point could be several points of failure that are hit upon. If you have, let's say, a particular bank that has several locations, you might have several points that are attacked, but you're always dealing with a singular private entity that is dealing with a singular private database, usually that could be hit upon and destroyed and therefore unrecoverable. Um, a public blockchain, because of the nature of what it is, you have these competing nodes that are maintaining a ledger that, A, because of the distribution of these nodes, makes it seriously difficult to attack all of them at once. Because if all you need is one to maintain the truth, and then all of the rest of the nodes can replicate what this particular node had. But again, you're talking about a massive amount of computational power to attack even a singular node infrastructure, let alone all of them. Because of that, you then mitigate, if not eliminate, the single point of failure. Um, Private institutions who look to do private blockchains singularly are going to have a much more insecure infrastructure in that way.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great way to lead into the next question, which is just that it sounds like what you're describing is sort of benefiting from economies of scale. So you have these node services that are able to keep and maintain these logs on the public ledger, and what you're doing is essentially sort of using that so that instead of just keeping a log on your own system, whereas if that system were to be penetrated, then of course those logs could be erased, etc. And there may not be even any awareness that the system had been penetrated because of how quickly the hacker could cover up their tracks. What you're doing is instead you can still use your own internal logs. That doesn't mean that you need to have no internal logs, but what you're doing is you're essentially building a sort of a backstop for those logs so that they can never be removed. If they are removed from your personal system, they're not removed from the public ledger. And when we're talking about breaches of data, what is the typical timeline that some of these companies who are experiencing a breach of data have in terms of when the data is actually breached to the time that they become aware of it? And how does blockchain shorten that?
Sure, great question. So the global average is currently 212 days for an organization to discover and start to remediate this potential breach. So that, of course, is insane and totally unacceptable. Um, so what Certihash is able to do is twofold. Because of our leaner infrastructure or architecture, just generally, we're able to mitigate the breach, uh, well, within in mere seconds, really, honestly. But we're capturing this every 10-second log fingerprint, this hash of the entire state of the network. And so therefore, an organization can, no matter what, go back and look to see what was the state of the network before the potential breach, during the breach, and after the breach. So as you said, a hacker could go in and attempt to remove their footprints, but they've already been captured and captured on chain. And so we're able to capture and alert the admin, within 10 seconds, and as well as capture that on chain.
Wow, that's powerful. And so 10 seconds. So you're talking about a time frame going from 10 seconds to 212 days. So if an organization were not to use Certihash and they were, meeting this global average for a data breach, how much potential like average impact does that have economically on the organization? And how does that compare to the pricing that you're setting Certihash at? Do you try to model the pricing for Certihash at something that's similar to the amount that they can potentially save through the use of a tool like Certihash?
Good question, Brett. Well, so actually, no, we don't have to charge a lot of money for Certihash. In fact, we aim to be very, very affordable for both mid-sized organizations as well as large-scale organizations. In fact, utilizing a public blockchain enables us to be really cost-effective and offer what we feel is a tremendous improvement in the current cybersecurity models.
Perfect. Yeah. And so, I'd love to just dive in and maybe take a look at Certihash if you wouldn't mind maybe giving us and our viewers a quick demo.
Yeah, that'd be great. I would love to. So what you are seeing on the screen right now is a side-by-side or a demonstration uh, To our right, we have our Sentinel node platform, and to our left, we have our hackers console, if you will. If we would look at our right side, we see a health of 100% and a performance of 100%. Now, what those two different indicators are is health states that there are no alerts currently, no problems going on with our system. With our performance, we're seeing that there's 3 files that are being monitored currently on one connected device. So for this test environment, we've set up an Ubuntu server, which is very common amongst mid-sized and larger size organizations. And we're monitoring several different files, one of which is this environment that the hackers console is attempting to hack, if you will. And so we have every 10 seconds that this is being put onto the blockchain and monitored. And so if I go ahead and enter this little hacking area here, we'll just pretend that this was the final attempt to brute force this environment, and a hacker got through and they made a modification on the file. So we'll go ahead and click here.
So an example of a modification could be, let's say that a invoice had been submitted where I was owed $1,000, and I can penetrate that system and delete the 1,000 and say, instead I'm owed $100,000. Now I'm trying to, use this tool to change some information that will eventually benefit me in the future.
Exactly. So wait 1 second. All right, so what we should see on the left side, hopefully if everything goes well. All right, so what you're seeing there is our hash of the file before the hack and the hash afterwards. And if we count down, okay, it's already almost been 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. We should see a capture right about, give it a second.
Sure. So this would be, I'm the admin now, and I'm being alerted that and say I'm on vacation. I'm at the pool, I'm having a pineapple beverage. My phone is near me, and all of a sudden I'm getting an alert that's saying something is different about the state of my network that has been changed. I've used Certihash to monitor these files, and now those files are not the way that they were when I requested this monitoring. Is that correct?
Exactly. Imagine being a lawyer who had put together a motion for a upcoming court case tomorrow, and they play Certihash monitoring their motion, which is on their laptop or on their server, and all of a sudden somebody hacks into it and changes even a dot, even a period, even a comma, anything that will cause that hash to change. And as you said, Brett, immediately within 10 seconds of that hack happening, this alert will come in and it will alert the admin or whoever is on the admin list of receivers of the alert. So as you are pointing out, it could be a CEO, it could be the admin, it could be the CTO, it could be any number of stakeholders to be placed on the admin list. They'll receive the alert, and then whoever is responsible or authenticated and authorized to be able to log in with their private key will be able to click on that alert. We'll go over here and switch our screen to the bigger one now. All right, so as you see, there's an unexpected change on our test file. At this point, we see the hash all along the right side until something broke when there's a change. All these are captured on the blockchain, including the hash that is broken. So you see there the BSV transaction ID. And we haven't settled anything yet. We're just showing that everything is being captured. If we come down here, we could dismiss the alert or reset the chain. If we dismiss the alert, we're essentially saying that there's something that either I myself did or someone within the organization did that was actually authorized and okay, and it was something that we recognized was okay and there was no issues. You just dismiss the alert. And if you realize that there was something that actually did occur and there was remediation actions that were needed, you would reset the chain, which would cause this hash chain to be stopped and then reset and started from that point again. We'll go ahead and dismiss the alert. Either way that you choose, dismiss or reset, causes a box to open up, which will cause the admin to have to sign off on a note that is signed with their private key and published on chain as well in a private manner.
Yeah, and one thing that's important to understand here is that we're using terminology like a hacker, but it doesn't have to be a hacker, correct? This could be someone that has authority to the internal environment, but is making an unauthorized change to a document.
Exactly. Well, and that's why we're requiring that the admin also sign their notes and publish that note, that sign, that signature onto the blockchain.
Now, one thing that I want to talk about when we're discussing the applications and use case of this Certihash tool, of course, when you're talking about, data and money that is tied up to that data, like you said, a motion that a lawyer is scheduled to file, etc. Potentially there's a lot of money that's at risk if that data is changed. The money that's involved with data depends on an accurate and authentic view of what that data is. For example, one industry that I see having a ton of interest in the use cases and applicability of Certihash is insurance companies, because they want to be sure that if they're insuring specific documents, let's say that they're looking at specific health documents, those health documents need to know that the ones that they're looking at are the ones that come directly from the doctors, not necessarily changed by the patient. Because when they're talking about making risk management decisions relating to information, it's so important that they can have a reliable, traceable trail that indicates the authenticity of that information. So,
Exactly.
so yeah, just the implications alone from the amount of money, not only to a breach of a individual company's environment and the potential risk that represents to them, but also the potential risk that this represents to insurance companies, which are actually underwriting a lot of the risk mitigation that's going on with the data authenticity. That is a massive, massive opportunity. One thing I want to ask you is, you developed this in concert with IBM. How important was it to you to work with a team like IBM that understands these types of enterprise and global business needs when it comes to authenticating data?
You know, uh, when we were looking at around the ecosystem outside of blockchain, but also having some experience with blockchain, um, but had specifically a pulse on cybersecurity, we looked and we found IBM. For 18 years at that point, I guess going on 21 at this point, they have been producing the cost of a data breach report along with Ponymon. And when you look at that report, it's been a guiding document for the industry for years to see what would the cost be for my organization if we were to suffer a breach, whether it be reputational damage or, as you said, a liability for personal data being breached and released. And so we reached out to them. It seemed like a great fit for us, and it really was. We had a great experience working with them. I think we were able to present to them really the features and the capabilities of a public scalable blockchain, since they were focused more on their a Hyperledger product. Um, so it was nice for us to be able to see what we were able to show them in terms of a public scalable blockchain. And I think since that point, we've seen them work with several other companies.
Yeah, and another thing that you mentioned in your demonstration that I want to just go back to is the importance of that signing with the admin's private keys and the use cases of having that authentication be applied to more than simply just moving a digital asset from one wallet to another, but actually this creative, and like I said in our intro, you as a person being driven by your curiosity, seeing the other business use cases for authentication through private keys. What are some of the key values aside from just being very low fees? What are some of the other advantages of using private keys to create traceable audit trails for data?
Sure. I think that anywhere that you want a combination of what you know and maybe who you are, or what you know and what you have, right? So Bitcoin private keys, they solve a what you know, and we've heard, I mean, very many times, I mean, not your keys, not your coins, but you've also heard the argument of, well, if I steal somebody's keys, does that make me the owner? So private keys allow for us to associate people or identities with the ability for somebody to, if they're the only ones who have it, authenticate an action. That coupled with other types of Web 2 and legacy technologies allows for us to have an immutable trail and a very authenticated way of, like you said, either moving digital assets, placing, I mean, data on chain, signing data. So it's just a phenomenal way of um, again accessing this wonderful thing that we call blockchain technology, and having a very secure way of identifying who was the one who took that action. I mean, so it could be a Twitter post, right? I mean, we see it with some of our applications, HODLocker and formerly Twitch, but Certihash, obviously for enterprise cybersecurity. They all offer us a way to authenticate who it was that did an action, which just improves legacy technologies, right? Whereas before you had a lot of anonymity, right? Now at least you have some more privacy and capabilities of authentication.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. And it's so empowering to see you led by this journey of your curiosity, as a very purpose driven person, down this path where originally, the idea around smart contracts was relegated only to one specific blockchain, but being willing to explore the many different use cases and applicability, uh, even insofar as seeing the tools that BSV blockchain support with the low fees and the public ledger and the ability to sign on chain and leave a auditable record and trail that all apply to the native assets of the chain itself, but being able to say we can leverage those tools to create value for other opportunities and other services, such as cybersecurity, which leads me to a question, which is another one of our shared passions, which is music and reggae music, and the Rasta lifestyle as well. That's something that when we first started to discuss these applications, you see them also applying to things like the music industry and ways that we can build more localized communities supporting each other. So talk to me a little bit about some of your life as a touring musician, as a touring bass player, and also the way in which maybe that serves as an outlet for some of your creative energy, but also the way in which some of this information that you are disclosing to us about the value of blockchain can actually serve as a stepping stone and as a tool to lift people up through their passions.
Yeah, I love the question, Brett. And yeah, you're definitely right. We share a deep love and passion for music and creativity. I think across the board, artistic. artistry. Yeah, I've been performing and playing music since I was 14. It was my first love and passion. Honestly, it was something that I put my all into, and life gave me a lot of great journeys and blessings in that. So I got to tour the world, playing in various countries with some of the creators of reggae music. In talking with them, very much like the guys in Motown and some of the histories of our culture in America, you have guys who didn't get their just desserts for participation in classic records. And it could be, some of it was just poor contracts, right? Just taking advantage of a situation. And some of those guys didn't even know they were taking advantage of the guys that they eventually were taking advantage of, because you have things that pan out over time, and then you guys have guys that say, "Hey, I got $50 for a session, but now millions of dollars have been made off of that record." And so again, sh- contracts could be improved by blockchain by giving us an auditable trail of small activities. And those small activities could be streaming, it could be just parsing of digital rights management. So that's what, as you're pointing out, my love of music and my experience with working with some of these guys, and with also seeing difficulties for myself and others just finding avenues to monetize their content. It led me to starting to work on projects that would help people to make money everywhere from developing nations to just people who I knew in the industry. And it was one of the first things I had actually started working on within that other cryptocurrency that I saw it was guys in Uganda were able to sell 3 songs for 75 cents US each and pay for their whole cell phone bill for the month. So, just the abilities to enable micropayments to make differences in people's lives across the nations was exciting to me. So then that when I got into BSV, it led me to create with SmartLedger Rare Generation Publishing, which allows artists to publish their songs utilizing BSV blockchain. So you're able to, because of the micropayment capabilities, you could create a publishing of a piece of works of a song that has 50, 100 people that you're splitting up proceeds and publishing between. So a person could actually give publishing rights to their entire neighborhood that they grew up with if you wanted to. But so yeah, we have that along with Streamable FM, which allows you to stream the music, pays the artist within just a few seconds of streaming. Um, and we have a host of other applications that we've been working on as well uh, within the digital rights management field. Immutable Books is one of them for book publishing. And yeah, it's just been, like you said, a really nice thing to be able to combine these technologies and solve some of these problems across the industries, so people can monetize their content.
Wonderful. I have a little bit of a two-part question here as well. Some of the projects and the products that you're describing right there, they almost seem, and I've heard you use this term before, like company as a service. That's something that I've heard Zem and Gal talk about as well. This concept of building a company as a service, and where do you see companies as a service in the broader ecosystem today, especially as empowered by blockchain technology? And then the second part of that question is, you know, how has it been for you to be, involved in this ecosystem where so many other brilliant people like, Zemming, like Xiaowei Lu, some of these other people that are solving some of the same problems that you're solving are able to, work with them and, the Handcash team as an example as well, work with them as colleagues on sort of like a collaborative approach around addressing some of the world's needs, which blockchain is uniquely positioned to be able to solve.
So as far as collaborative experiences, from the very beginning, when I first met Clemens, Zach Wiener had come into the fold of Bitcoin Computer, and he had come out of, I guess, some of the Ethereum camps, that, from what I remember, and so he was new to discover BSV through Clemens, and him and I became close, fast friends. And so I it was my experience from the get go that there is just a warm back and forth between different people. Now, granted, there's always politics. There's always, different, competitions or co-opetitions. But generally speaking, I would say my experience has been really fantastic. From working with Handcash to working with Haste Arcade, Gorilla Pool, again Zach and his team. Um, it's just been a joy, really, honestly, a good time. Now, I will say that the more that we could standardize when it makes sense. That we should standardize when it makes sense. I know that like there are certain protocols that I stood on the top of shoulders of so-called giants, Unwriter and different people who came up with certain protocols that a lot of the guys now develop on, and so and we see that coming. Continuing to be happening today with OneSat and different people's techniques. Of course, like you said, Jawei is a big influence on myself and a lot of others. Um, as far as companies as a service, I think that it lends itself now, particularly, but maybe just in general, Bitcoin now because we're such at a ripe, beautiful starting point of what maybe should have been 10 years ago, but it just is just now, right? So we're seeing BSV kind of unlocking some of these potentials of blockchain. And so it gives us the opportunities to really just kind of scan across industries and look to see what needs improving. How could, what are the pain points of these industries? Through that, I think you have a lot of creative folks in our industry. Brian Darty from our team, he's always come up with new ideas. Sean, Ryan, Shannon, and Ava, they're always come up with new ideas and bring them to the table. So I think that it naturally kind of it formulates similar, like you're saying, almost like a company as a product or as a service. But I think that we're also just naturally creative people, and we start to put brands on top of industry solutions. But we're a distribution channel or a distribution company, so we work with several different partners. In the industry, in our ecosystem, and distribute some of their products. But we also are creative people, so we love to brand stuff and come up with solutions.
Perfect. Yeah, and then my last question here for you is just about the iterative process of gathering feedback from the products that you're launching and for the customers that you're building, and how important is it for you to continue to gather that feedback in as people are testing out your tools, and to be able to iterate on those for maybe solving some use cases that maybe you hadn't considered, or also seeing some new developments, like some of the things that Jiaowei is launching, and maybe they don't have a product yet where they have a perfect fit, but you're able to use that creativity that you were talking about, that you have the freedom to do as a musician, and maybe apply that into the world of software development.
Yeah. I think that you always try to keep a finger on the pulse of what's new, right? And there's so many creative people working on things in our ecosystem that it's always going to be hard to try to take in everything that's new and try to fit into something. But I find that the serendipity sometimes that does arise when you're looking for a solution and somebody else is either working on something similar or has created something that you could utilize in your product or vice versa. It has been kind of fun to watch. A lot. It means everything, honestly. So I would say that for SmartLedger, for myself, we have probably different levels of products and fleshed out products and things that we're taking and launching. Internationally, and just kind of like fleshing out and testing out. Certihash is something that we have, fully launched, and we have partners that are continuing to give us feedback on. Ticket Mint is our virtual and physical ticketing platform that is fully launched, and we have people who are using it and giving us feedback. Rare Generation and those different content creation, same thing. We're always looking for feedback. Some of those are not. Different ones are taking different kind of forefront in our company. But like you said, it's a juggling of different entities and industries, and so we're always looking for people to give us feedback.
Yeah, and I know with Brian Doherty at the helm at SmartLedger, and like you said, as a distribution channel, looking to build a bridge to the broader enterprise ecosystem, some of the tools that the blockchain enable, and those being products that are already built or products that need to continually get developed. With having Brian on your side, you have the feedback from places like Washington, D.C., lawmakers, regulators, learning a little bit ahead, seeing ahead of the curve of what's coming up with this complex world of digital ownership of information, the Department of Defense, for example, I think recently has been in touch with Smart Ledger, and so I think it's wonderful to be in this time where we have the ability to give our feedback to the emergence of these products like Certihash and like Immutable Books, that these products are going on to play pivotal roles in things like Department of Defense information strategy and things like that, because this is what happens when you're so early in the emergence of a technology that you know we can all participate in building this better world that we see blockchain enabling.
Yeah, a great point. It's actually it's a great blessing to have Brian working with the government officials, and they're looking for demonstration of these use cases, right? They've seen the rise and the fall of the cryptocurrencies. They've seen the rise and the fall of the scams and the altcoin, whether good intentions or bad intentions that came along with some of those projects. They're looking for real use cases of blockchain, and like you said, it's we're poised as an ecosystem and as a blockchain to really kind of now start to show off what we have that's capable within our blockchain. It offers a more secure alternative, or a more secure blockchain overall, and a more sustainable blockchain. It's just honestly, it's really a great opportunity. And like you said, so some of these products, Cerdash, Take a Mint, we launch them and we have them, shouting from the rooftop with banners. Some of these are just modules that we create just to show, industries, here's what we could do, right? Because the blockchain has a bunch of different features that you could say, okay, what industry, what issue, here's a module to show you.
Yeah, and I know from seeing behind the scenes for Smart Ledger, the massive development house that you have, the ability to go from idea and concept to creation, implementation, really, really quickly, working with enterprise businesses, working with governments, working with areas where information means millions and millions of dollars, and the tools are there. What needs to happen is the creative application of those tools to solve the specific needs, and that can be done, as you said, in a modular way, because different, even within the ticketing industry, say for example, there's multiple different members that may be part of the same ticket industry, but as different agencies approach that industry in a different way, and would need their modular components to be constructed in a way that suited their specific business needs, whether that's through marketing agreements, marketing partnerships, or artist kickbacks, artist royalties and revenue sharing, etc. That can be all different. And when you're at the business table and you're going over these tools, I know with the developer team that you lead, that is something where you can go instantly from idea to creation, right? With a working product very, very quickly.
You nailed it. I mean, we really do have a menu of options. And within those menu of options, like you said, you could take those modules and they're like Lego pieces, and they fit into different industries at different pain points. And then we're able to, in real life, get on with people and show them, right? Get on this application, pull up that website, log in. Let me show you how we could distribute publishing immediately to you. So it's really nice to be able to have that flexibility to, whether it be right in front of them at that moment, show them something, or hear something within a day or two, be able to turn over a use case, an MVP for them.
Great. And then if I was a business looking to get started with a product that works out of the box, like a Certihash or like a rare generation records or immutable books, or if I was interested in just, getting on a call with you to talk to you about my specific use cases and how a product could be built and developed that meets my exact needs, are those two different processes? Is there a difference between how to go through that, or how would someone go through each of those different steps?
Sure. So depending on what the product is, I mean, you could always reach out to SmartLedger, your friends at SmartLedger.solutions, and you'll always find somebody at the other end of that line to help you. We do have Sentinel Node, which is our first Certihash product that you saw demonstrated today. We do have a website for that. So that's sentinelnode.online, and you could find contact information through there, or again, you can reach out through SmartLedger as well. And then, so any of the other products, if you want either ask us a question or leave feedback, I would also say to reach out through SmartLedger, your friend at SmartLedger.solutions.
Perfect. And then closing thoughts. I just want to ask you the question, is the future bright for BSV? That's an open-ended question. And I want to also ask, what would you see as a nice milestone that you'd like to see the BSV blockchain ecosystem reach over the next maybe 3 to 5 months?
I would like, as a milestone, I would like to see two things at the very least. I would like to see, and I believe that they're both going to occur. I would like to see transaction volume capabilities be exercised and thoroughly demonstrated to those who are wanting to see, who need to see at these times. The greater world will feel it and see it in the future times. But I would like to see that, again, all the capabilities that we know that we have, that I hear other blockchains saying, "Oh, we could do this," and we just tower above them and just far outshine them and far out, transact them. I like to be able to see that, really shown in numbers, and I like to see BSV become more of a household name. And so I think that will also occur both through the applications that people are working on in our ecosystem, right? So you're going to see them solving real world issues, whether it be a Certihash or whether it be one of the other ecosystem applications from our brothers and sisters. But I think also with some of these upcoming things that are happening in the world today, with whether it be solving a use case, or whether some of these kind of nuanced kind of things that are happening within the crypto world and governments, I think you're going to start to see BSV kind of starting to rise up through the ashes.
Perfect. Greg, it's always a pleasure. Thank you
My
so much
pleasure.
for being a guest on the show, Bitcoin Builders.
Yes, sir.
And thank you so much to my guest, Greg Ward from SmartLedger Solutions, Chief Technology Officer. Gave us a great demo of Sentinel Node, the first product from Certihash. I want to thank you all for being my viewers today, for being loyal viewers across the Bitcoin Builders sessions and our shows. And I want to invite you to continue to follow us. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like our content, make sure you share our content, and we will continue to bring you wonderful guests like Chief Technology Officer Greg Ward from SmartLedger Solutions, who is tackling real world problems in innovative ways with this flexible and low fee public ledger technology BSV blockchain. It's going to continue to create disruptions in industries across the world because of the importance and the value in securing data. Folks, my name is Brett Banfe. I am your host, and thank you for being with me on another episode of Bitcoin Builders.